Let's go and see if everything is okay. And then we start the live. Let's see if it's okay and we start the live. Apparently it's cool. Everything's fine. We'll see if we can start the live in 2 minutes right now. We're already starting the live, just 2 minutes. Today we'll have a surprise for you. Some interesting things. There are always new discoveries. But today's, I think, will surprise. Today's one, I think, will surprise us all, including me, right? I already had the discovery, but let's go. In a little while, we'll start today's live. Just a minute, or actually a few seconds, right? And we've already started the live. And here we go. It's 8 p.m. I'm on an adventure. I wanted to say 7 p.m., not 8 p.m., but it's 8 p.m. in Brazil, May 7th, 2025. Today's live is titled The Day as Function and the Night as Meaning. That's complicated, but it's the same thing as closing to do and opening to be. Today, May 7th, is my birthday. I turned 61 today, and I think that to celebrate, this live title came to my mind to share with you. So check it out. Closing to do, opening to be. In other words, the day as a function, the night as a meaning. We are going to work on this idea of what is this closing, what is this opening, how do you work with yourself at times by opening and naturally closing. Every time you close and focus on something, okay? Closing is focusing on something. When you open, you open. The mind, like paper, focuses. You're more like on stone focusing on something. Even when you're learning, you focus. There are many sounds that you don't even hear properly. You're focused, so you close. The focus is to close in on the focus. Open, open, 360, open. That's the idea. So the same thing, the day. As a function, during the day you do things, and at night as a meaning. As everything you did during the day, your brain will store in the cerebral cortex and in the depths of the brain, store the information that occurred during the day. And I'm going to share with you some little secrets that are Transcendence 1. Before, for me, it was something difficult to achieve and such, but now it's simpler. And with a few points about focusing, and opening, you'll understand how human transcendence occurs, and you'll like it and you'll use it. Let's go. First, a little review for you. Again, Damasian mind. Antonio Damasio is a scientist, a neuroscientist, and he said that the mind, it comes from proprioception and interoception. Proprioception is my position, the position of my body in space. The signals that come from the tendons, from the positions of the muscles, all these signals from this musculature that I have entirely in tendons and the position of the body come to my brain. If I close my eyes, I know my position in space. So this is proprioception. Interoception, look, my deep feeling, the feeling of the heart, of the stomach, the deep feeling. This deep feeling that you have, interoception. and proprioception, my position in space. So I made an increase, I made an upgrade, I made an extension of proprioception to APOS. What is the exception itself for APOS? The exception itself is your positioning in space, your body as it is in space. Even with your eyes closed, you have a position in space and you know what it is. APOS is, I also perceive all the space around me and position myself in relation to the space outside of me. If I am dreaming, the dream space which I am imagining, if I am in a cave, if I am traveling, if I am not dreaming, I look around and position myself in this space, in this APOS. APOS is this space, this rule, these norms of this space. I'm telling you, there's a rule when I dive underwater. When I dive underwater without a mask, without anything, I have to respect the rules of that rule. No, I can't breathe there because otherwise it's going to be bad. So the rule also has a rule for you to have opposition from the space in that space that I perceive. And then, in the most practical part for you and me, when you go to church, to a religious event, you have restrictions on your movements, restrictions on your speech, restrictions on your thoughts, including because that environment is a sacred environment. If it's a soccer field, it's different. If it's in your kitchen, it's one way. If it's in the living room, it's another way. If it's in the bedroom, it's another way. If it's in the bathroom, it's another way. So each space, each place allows you to have a different pool of movements, okay? Pro-perception with places, proprioception, your body movement, your body position, and within the space you perceive. And these spaces usually have rules and norms, or we create these rules and norms in this space. Interception. Interception, I'm going to talk about something new today. It's the perception that you have viscerally. Okay. But when you let that visceral perception go, you have a very intense emotional enjoyment, and sometimes, and we usually do, we use visceral tension to do so. How do we do this? Feelings, feelings. Sometimes you have a memory, a deeper feeling, and this feeling, when it comes, this deep memory that comes, this feeling is like a song to you. And this feeling, it can have pain, it can have joy, it can have pleasure. This feeling will touch you, but it will touch, it will flow in you. It will have a stage, a beginning, a middle, and an end. In fact, the beginning of the middle, 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 then the end. But it is a feeling. It is important that you have it. In this feeling, which has this flow of feeling, at the moment that the feeling is flowing, especially existential feelings, you put a visceral tension and the position of your muscles. For example, let's look at a feeling that I want to do. Look, raise your shoulder and tense your diaphragm a little more. I pull your chest more. I puff out my chest more and raise my shoulder. I am in this body position, in this tension, because the feeling that I have in my head leads me to have this body reaction. Okay. But look, interoception was my visceral feeling, but now interoception has been covered by a greater feeling for a doing. What am I saying? I close myself off so as not to do it. I lock my body and addiction to what I should do. At that moment, part of my feelings, part of that sensation of that feeling, internal interoception, the feeling comes and covers it. So I play a corporal tension of positioning in the tension of muscular. By standing here in this chair and like this, I put this tension and visceral tension, because with visceral tension you hold back your emotions. Visceral tension holds back your emotions. Visceral tension holds back your emotions. But this visceral tension also uses the muscles of the body structure. So sometimes I get more tense or less tense. I get, because I'm focusing, I'm tensing my viscera and muscles to focus. Not the muscles that move back and forth, but the ones that restrict me in this environment, in this afterlife, in this perception of space where I am. I hope you guys are understanding this well because I'm going to exchange a lot of words and then I'll come back to this again. So what do you have? You have the being, you open. Remember the connection to the paper, open flow, living being. The living being, he learned, he had brain formation, he had a childhood, he learned to ride a bike and so on. And suddenly now I'm going to ride a bike. Look, the living being, it was a being that is the whole. Riding a bike, I need to recruit a self that knows how to ride a bike. The self that knows how to ride a bike, he already has a body positioning to get on the bike and maintain balance and activate the feelings of riding a bike and the ability to ride a bike. It's not with all the feeling that you're going to ride a bike unless you smell very smart at riding a bike. And once you're very smart, you've gone, then what I call you've transcended. You're so good at riding a bike so much that you ride a bike feeling different things and thinking different things. But when you're just starting out after you've learned, you still have to have the same feeling to keep your balance, to keep yourself safe, to keep yourself steady, to be balanced on the bike. At that moment when you are on the bike, you have a feeling that covers your, it creates visceral tension, and also the feeling in the one you put also has this own perception, which is your position in space and the perception of the movement around you, and you focus. A being that was broad became a self with rules and norms for doing things, closed to do, but you have to open up to be. But we can't always open ourselves up to being after we've closed ourselves off to doing. It's those people that sometimes you become a self that does, that believes, that has habits, that has faith. I use the self to do. And I don't open up anymore and I realize I'm the me. The self is fake. The self is a lie. Yes, it is a lie, but we use it. We need it. It is a tool. The self is a tool. So it is a tool to do, to use, not to be. But I close myself in a tool, I for doing, and I open myself for being. Okay, how are we going to do this, right? And then you will see today's tricks. Okay, how am I going to open up to being? Look how interesting this is. What I've been discovering and I think is fantastic is the following. Remember the meditation processes and sometimes Buddhist meditation and yoga and transcendent things and long walks. Okay, we never really know how the process works at a neuroscientific level. And now I think this will give you an idea. When you focus and tense your body so that the body has a little more opening in the vessels that are in the prefrontal where you will focus better, the body will do the following to you. It will increase the amount of carbon dioxide, CO2, and decrease the amount of oxygen. Wow, that's new. That's cool. I discovered that this week. I think it's something that a lot of people already know, but I didn't. So that means that when I tense my body to do this, I will decrease the oxygen, the decrease in oxygen. Normally we are between 98, 99, 100% of oxygen saturation SpO₂. It can drop to 94 to 96, never less than 92, because then it gets complicated, okay? So when oxygenation drops, it will be like this, close to 94, 96, you are focused. And CO2, normally 40 millimeters of Hg, goes to 45 millimeters of Hg. With increased CO2 in the blood, the prefrontal causes vasodilation in the prefrontal, the vessels in the prefrontal. This is very technical, this is very structured. Let's get practical. In practice, when you have something complicated and you are focusing, you tense your body, focus and do the visceral contraction. You start, instead of doing a breath like this, you take a small, short breath, because short breathing is putting in less oxygen than long breathing. By putting in less oxygen, you are focusing on a self that suddenly knows, or a self that wants to learn. You use the self, this tool, where this self will be the one that will go after it. I know, I know. You know that child? I know, I know, I know. You will go after him. So, do you know how to ride a bike? Okay, then, come here. Let's ride a bike. And you will put in little breathing when you are, just imagine, you will put in a needle, a thread at the bottom of the needle, a thread at the bottom of the needle, then you're going to put it there. Let me see. Look at my breathing. I stopped a little bit. If at that moment I'm almost putting it in, I'm going to do it. I'm going to lose. There won't be any focus. There won't be any focus. To have focus, breathing slows down a little. It's shorter. It's more focused. And you have a body and visceral tension. Okay? So far, we're talking about what happens naturally in the body. Breathing a lot decreases tension. Look, breathing a lot. In a moment, I'm going to talk about a breathing technique that I think is fantastic, that has worked well for me. So, the breathing that is normally short and nasal, it gives you more focus because you put less oxygen into your body. It will try to stay between 94 and 96. You become more focused with more CO2 in this part up here. The prefrontal will dilate the veins there, the little arteries, and you will have more focus because you tensed up. You are breathing less, more focus, breathe more, less focus, breathe more. You return to being broad, a living being, a being that breathes. Deeply feel, and when you breathe less focused on a specific task that has to be done, typed or done, something that you have to work on, resolve, then you focus less, you breathe less, and this gives you focus and tenses your body and your eyes more towards that point. Okay, so far it's valid. But if you, during the morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, you wake up, you start focusing on one thing, breathing little, focus on another, breathing little, focus on another, breathing little, and doesn't it relax your body? This focus, this tension in your body, your posture, and your visceral tension starts to give you an excess of cortisol. And then this excess cortisol starts to change the pH of your viscera. Look how complicated. Yes, but in the beginning, cortisol is important. Yes, because it will maintain this stress, it will maintain this tension. Yes, but look, this stress that you started at 8 in the morning to suddenly wash the dishes or to write this paper or to do this thing one that you are going to do, and then you go to thing two, another thing that you have to do, and you continue with that tension. No, I have to undo the previous tension so that the body is free. You closed yourself off to do, you have to open yourself up to be, and then you can focus again and do what you want. Are you going to do it early in the morning? There is something you have to do early in the morning. 8 hours you focus, you will breathe less, you will do it, you finish doing it, or every hour take 4 long breaths. And when you breathe, release your shoulder, release your inner part, because that armor that you are using, visceral and corporal, for one thing, is not necessary for this other thing. Then you return to being. Suddenly it stretches a little, right? Road, such tasty, I don't know what. And now you tense again, focus. Let's do this again. But look at that. I breathed, relieved my viscera, let my emotions pass, my visceral pain, whether it's hot or not. Feel your whole body like that. And now let's focus on something else. When I focus on something else, a new feeling comes and gives me visceral pressure again. Okay, the Damasian mind is interoception and proprioception. When I place the feeling of doing, my feelings of interoception are already tense on top of the doing, on top of the focus, and I no longer feel the original being, but rather an incorporated self which tenses the viscera. So it would be something like this. Let's take politics. I always like to talk about politics, especially the politics within you. Every time you stress to do something, you stress on a self, and this self that has to do it, it separates. This is right, this is wrong. I'm going to do it this way and not that way. So the self, in doing, he is a kind of conservative Republican. He will take things, divide right and wrong into what he perceives to be right or wrong, and will do what must be done. So you have inside you a Republican self that will do and separate right from wrong. When you finish doing, you've already done it. You've already made the coffee. You've already made the tea. You've already made lunch. You've already done your work. You've already done it. Now you breathe, let go, disarm, disarm, okay? So when you were doing it, there was little oxygen. The SpO₂ was at 96, 95. Now you breathed SpO₂, increased the carbon dioxide that was more concentrated near 45. Now it decreased, the concentration decreased. You go back to leave your conservative Republican self and become a secular Democrat. What is a secular Democrat? I don't need to believe in anything. Here in this environment, there are these things. And now I pull out a conservative Republican me again, understand? Isn't it contradictory, Jackson, the secular Democrat and the conservative Republican me? Yes, it is contradictory. You, the being that you are, the living being that you are a secular Democrat. He is open, he is a being. The Democrat that I speak of is the following. You open yourself in such a way that you are flowing in life. It is the being. You have animals around you, a dog, a kitten, something. They are playing, you are looking, and you touch one and see the other. It is all together, it is all kind of mixed up. You feel it, but suddenly you will focus on something. When you focus, you will take that away. You will go back to norms and rules, right and wrong, not to do. You see, and these are the political differences within yourself. So the being will be a secular Democrat, living beings, I love them, and the well being of all. Suddenly he goes back to having to do something. And sometimes the human being feeds on living beings. Sometimes you go there and cut the lettuce, cut the plant, destroy a plant to feed on it, or destroy the animal, or kill the animal to feed on it. I mean, have you noticed? The Democrat disappears and sells the Republican to feed himself and do. So this change is very interesting. When I tell you to also open to being, you closed and were focused on something. When you closed and were focused on something, you were breathing little. When you start breathing deeply, that focus decreases. A whole rule for you, the rule, how to increase focus. Slow down your breathing and increase your focus tension. And now to release the tension from your whole body, from your stomach, take a deep breath. I'm going to give you a deep breath in a little while, and maybe it's now. Before you went to sleep, every day that you spent 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., noon, you were tense all day. I don't know, you're a taxi driver. All the time, people, 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 and you were tense in traffic, and the tension was really high. It's time to relax, but you get home with that tension and that anxious feeling, and you go to sleep. No, but the self does not need to sleep. The one who needs to sleep is the human being, the living being. The self is what asks for it, what you know how to do. That is just learning. Okay, so at this moment, you have to let go of this tension of the self and open up to the being. Technique. And why open up to the being? Because sleep, when it comes, will enter N1, N2, N3, and REM. REM will make your emotions and feelings more flexible. N1, N2, N3, N1, N2 will put the day's memories in the prefrontal cortex. N3 will also cleanse your brain, and for that you have to be very, very relaxed. And then an idea that I really liked and started using, and it worked well, having a breath that is like this: 4, 7, 8. Breathe on all fours, okay? Hold for 7, release for 8, breathe for 4, hold for 7, release for 8, breathe for 4. Safe. Let go. Breathe on all fours. Why are we saying this? Breathe in for 4, hold it for 7, release for 8. Because when we do this, you will balance it out. You will make the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems come into action. The sympathetic system is the part that affects cortisol the most. The parasympathetic system will come into action. It will prepare you for sleep. It will open you up. You will breathe more. When you breathe more, you will lose focus. And after you fall asleep, of course, your breathing will change rhythm. You will breathe less. You will enter stages of sleep and things will change. But at that moment, you are changing a stage. What happened during the day to what will happen during the night? Breathe in 4, hold for 7, release in 8, 4, 7. So what do you have at this moment when you are doing this breathing? Look, I'm going to breathe in 4, safe, loose with the body together. That self that was tensing your viscera and your positioning, your body structure, it leaves that self of that doing. And sometimes the self of the doing from 8 in the morning was with you until 8 at night. It didn't need to be, but it didn't let go. It was here, it was tense. Now you let go, and suddenly you can't let go properly. So you do this breathing and stretch, 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 stretch. Do an exercise in zone 2, which I already told you about, those long walks. And zone 2 is very interesting stretching. So you can try to get rid of this structured self, which we need, which is a tool which we need to do so that it comes out when you need to be. Because otherwise you will remain in the connection, a rock, one self, another self, another self, another self, and life goes on. Life ends, and you will only be confined to selves, and you will not have the experience of being. And the experience of being is beautiful, it is rich, it is wonderful. You feel the flow of the living being within you. You feel transcendence. You are transcendence. You are the essence of the living being, but you lose yourself in being in this self or that self. You always lock yourself in the self. Now, when you breathe, simplifying this, making this expression 4, 7, and 8, you have opened. Breathe deeply. Let go. Again, when you focus, you lock down both the viscera and the structural musculature. When you focus, this is necessary. As you gain expertise, you reduce this tension because you gain a lot of expertise. This structural tension reduces a little, and you become a little freer in your movements. But when you don't know much, the tension is great. When it's time to learn, you become very tense. Children at school are tense. They are tense to try to learn, to try to focus. In this tension, you breathe less. When you breathe less, your focus increases. To relieve the tension, breathe more and release the tension. The self leaves, that self of that doing. Yes, but we will have to activate another self for another doing and not lose being that self. So whenever you relax, you lose a self. How many selves do you have? A legion of selves. In the next live, we will talk about this. A legion of selves for each being, and then how do we work on these selves? And this vision that I am passing on to you is for you to control yourself. Before you were going to say the following, let's now do a meditation process or a yoga process. All of this is important because you will have body movement, proprioception, breathing, focused or not open, focused. If it is focused, it is short breathing, but the breathing has to be long in the beginning to have relaxation, to get the ego out. And then later, when you start to focus on your path, on your journey, when you stop moving your body, it happens almost like a dream. When you go to sleep, your body stops and then your brain starts to produce images. If you stop moving your body, even during the day, and you're relaxed, about 52 seconds, 60 seconds pass. If you don't move your body, the images start to appear. If you close your eyes, an image will appear in your head, but it only appears a little, and the image starts to appear as if it were a meditation process. Obviously, those who meditate are a little more intense, but you can simply do it. Breathe deeply, relax your body, breathe deeply, stretch a little. Breathe deeply, relax your body. 4, 7, 8, right? Breathe on all fours very hard. Hold 7, release in 8, relax. Close your eyes, wait for 60 seconds with your eyes closed. Breathe calmly. You'll see that some things happen, but the I has already left because you've relaxed. So this is a nice meditation process. And then you look, focusing is closing, focusing is breathing a little less, breathing a little more, is opening, is being, yeah, but being won't do anything. The being is The being needs a tool to do it. Me one, me two, me three, me four, me who rides a bike, me who knows how to cook, me who knows how to make a steak, me who knows how to make lettuce, a salad, the me, a lot of me's, and you will select the me's, but you will never get lost in the me. How do you get lost in the me? By keeping the attention of the me from 8 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon. For what? You have to let it go and then you control yourself. So what is important is whenever you are in the me, you will know that you are dividing right and wrong because you have a way to do something. And even if you divide right and wrong, you'll do wrong thinking it was right and you'll do wrong. Okay, but you'll learn that later. The moment you use a tool, you use it the way it is. When you have enough expertise, even when you are in the self, you have metacognition. Metacognition is a little bit, it's almost like you're in the self, you're breathing slowly, but you start to have almost abdominal breathing. How am I doing? Where can I improve? And I slow down a little bit. Yes, but then you are focusing on how to improve what is right or wrong because you can improve some things. The important thing I wanted to leave you with today. No, breathe less. You are focusing and you are tensing your body. Breathe more. Relax to breathe more. And when you breathe more, it is transcendence. Forget everything you have learned. Remember everything that happened in your past and everything that can happen in your future. In this deep breathing, there is only the present and your memories. There is no yesterday, there will be no tomorrow. The being only lives from now on. But you will always look for a self or another self to do something. Guys, that's what I wanted to leave with you. Have a good Wednesday. See you next Wednesday. Big hug.